If you are choosing a handheld in 2026 and you're comparing a Steam Deck OLED with an Xbox ROG Ally X, you're likely not confused about performance because you already know which one is more powerful and faster. What you're actually unsure about is something else. What kind of experience you actually want. Because the best handheld isn't always the most powerful one. It's the one that you actually reach for at the end of the day. So let me try to help you find out which one you might be reaching for. You may think that comparing these two makes absolutely no sense because they're completely different devices, and I get that. But I'm not comparing them because they're the same kind of device. I'm comparing them because they promise the same kind of thing. They both want to be a console, a device that you can grab on the couch and disappear into without gaming turning into a project. And to be clear, this is not going to be a spec video, and I hope you've done your homework already. And if you haven't, you'll find the videos that you need here on the channel. This is about living with these devices after the updates, after the honeymoon phase, when they're actually just part of your routine. And really what we got here are two completely different philosophies. The Steam Deck OLED feels like a console in spirit. It has limits and it actually embraces them. Fixed power, predictable behavior, doesn't try to impress you. It tries to stay out of your way though. The ROG Ally X comes from a different world. It's sold like a console, but it's still a Windows PC at heart. It's got more power, more flexibility, more possibilities, and more responsibility. And that difference matters. Before performance, before menus, and before games, without realizing it, I feel that the first real place where you're going to make your decision is actually, and maybe not a lot of people realize this, in your hands. And if you get the chance of holding either one of those, you'll find out that they feel different. So the Steam Deck is wide, it's balanced, and it's lighter than it looks. Once it settles in your hands, it sort of disappears. It's like an old leather jacket that is broken in and very reliable. And the Ally X, on the other hand, feels incredibly comfortable, but it feels denser, it feels more compact. Grips feel amazing, very much like an Xbox, but you're more aware that you're holding it. The deck, it wants to rest, the Ally X wants to be held. Neither is wrong. Another thing that I feel matters more than specs over time is how these are built and how they feel. And the Steam Deck feels solid in a very specific way. It feels industrial. It feels durable. I've had it longer, so maybe the care for the device decreases a bit, but I don't mind tossing it onto the desk without thinking or sliding it into a bag without worry. By the way, little anecdote. When I got my Steam Deck back in summer 2024, the first thing I did was unbox it on a warm summer evening on the balcony, and immediately the unthinkable happened. I dropped it. And I stood there in disbelief, hands in my face. I thought I had destroyed it. Then I picked it up, I looked at it, I dusted it off, nothing. Everything was good. I'm not sure the same would apply to the Xbox Ally X, because it is different. It's well built, but more refined. It's more precise, it's more delicate. And there's a small voice inside me that says, be careful. Feels a bit more precious, maybe even fragile. And honestly, at least right now, that changes how relaxed I feel around it. Let's talk screen on paper and in practice, because when it comes to the screen, I'd say that on paper, the Xbox Ally X wins because it has the higher resolution and the faster refresh rate. It's a very nice screen to look at in terms of vibrancy and colors, but living with them tells a different story, because the Steam Deck OLED is actually calmer, the dark scenes feel more cohesive, blacks disappear instead of glowing grey, and especially during long sessions, it's a lot easier on the eyes. The Ally X is sharper and fast, no question, but for how powerful it is, and I've said that before in the full video, the screen feels a bit too small. And once you notice that, you can't unnotice it. Real life is full of interruptions, so let's look at the sleep and resume functions, and both of these boost and go back to sleep excellently, but that's not the point. What matters is actually friction. And on the Steam Deck, you press power and you're home. You know that SteamOS is a proven and very focused system, and suspend and resume feels invisible. It always has. You stop thinking about the system entirely. On the Xbox Ally X, suspend and resume works very well, especially in conjunction with the Xbox Big Picture mode. And honestly, it's become a feature that works better than on any other Windows handheld I've used, including the MSI Claw 8. But Windows is still there, managing things, doing PC things. Nothing is broken. It just asks a bit more of you. And maybe it's wrong, but there's always that latent feeling of, will everything work? But maybe that's just me. So how do these two behave when gaming? And the Steam Deck is older, we know that. It doesn't chase peaks, it chases consistency, frame pacing, thermals, power behavior, everything feels tuned and finished here. The Xbox Ally X has more headroom on the other hand. Z2 Extreme is a very capable processor, especially at low wattage, 10 to 15 watts. It's surprisingly efficient and often very impressive, but it can also push a lot harder when you ask it to. It's got more power, it's got more flexibility, but it asks you to stay more engaged as well, to manage things, updates, behavior. It's not babysitting, but it's different than the deck. The deck lets you sink in. The Xbox Ally X, it keeps you slightly alert. Let's talk controls and input, and controls matter less for how they measure and more for how much you actually stop noticing them. And honestly, both of these are great. They feel direct on both devices. The buttons, the triggers, the sticks, they're all very capable and very responsive. They never get in your way, and it's a rounded package on both of these machines. In terms of precision, I'd give the Ally X a slight edge, mostly because it is designed to feel like a traditional controller. The grip, the shape, the stick placement, it all feels like an Xbox. The Steam Deck, though, feels excellent as well, just in a slightly different way, more tool-like, solid, consistent. One thing worth calling out, though, the D-pad on the Ally X absolutely sucks. I've got to say that. It works, but it's the weakest part of the control setup. Overall, though, both work very good, and it isn't a deciding factor, it's just another piece of how they feel day to day. The battery life isn't just about numbers, it actually shapes your freedom, and while I play most of the time next to the power outlet, the Steam Deck tops out at 15 watts max, and especially with older games and indies, which it is really made for, it sips power. Indies, they last for hours without even a thought, and you fall into a session without watching the clock. The Ally X, thanks to the Z2 Extreme, is actually very capable and very efficient at low wattage as well, but it's also built to scale up. So in turbo mode and heavier AAA games, you notice the drain. You tweak modes mid-session, you check percentages, it's capable, it's responsive, but that awareness about the battery never fully disappears. In real life, the deck is for effortless evenings and the Ally X is for intentional pushes. This is if you work only on battery. You might be wondering about the thermals and the noise, and when it comes to temperature, the thermals on the deck are simple. It stays cool, no issues, and is fairly quiet. It's never something that I actively think about. The Xbox Ally X runs hotter, and noticeably so, especially in games like Battlefield. It cooks. Not dangerously, not badly engineered, but you feel it. Fan noise is there when it ramps up, but it's not fastidious or anything on neither of those. It's more like hearing a hairdryer from outside the bathroom. You notice it, but it's fine. Still, once you feel heat, you're actually reminded that you're holding a PC. When it comes to portability, both of these are super easy to take from A to B. The deck comes with a case and the Xbox Ally X doesn't, but both live very comfortably in a backpack. A good case makes the real difference here. And by the way, something like a Jsaux mod case helps a lot. And quick side note, I use the Jsaux mod case on both my Steam Deck OLED and on the Switch too, and it's been great at protecting both. It comes with a bunch of useful accessories. It adds that extra grip and that protection that I want for daily use, and I'm going to leave you a link down below, and if you decide to get one, you know that you're helping the channel. So this isn't about pocketability, it's about whether the device fits into your routine without friction, and both do. Just in a slightly different way. If you're planning to do it, docking both of these is absolutely possible and something that you should try, because once you dock them, their personalities become even clearer. The Xbox Ally X naturally feels like a PC on a screen. It's flexible, powerful, you've got all the advantages of Windows. And the Steam Deck, even though you can use it as a Linux PC when docked, behaves much more like a console. Honestly, when you dock a Steam Deck today, you probably get a pretty good idea of what the upcoming Steam machine might feel like. Both deliver a very good experience. Just keep in mind that image quality can vary, of course, especially due to the upscaling and screen performance. And again, here neither is better. They just reinforce the same story that you feel in handheld mode. Let me be honest about something, by the way, because I think it's quite an important little thing that can put this comparison between the two devices into context for you. And we often praise the Steam Deck as being basically infallible, but while filming the video, I noticed something that I want to share. And I've had moments where the Steam Deck stumbled, especially with the resume function. I kept having some trouble. And while playing Cyberpunk 2077, it just didn't work. And I had to do a lot of tinkering to get that back to working properly. In those moments, the Ally X powered through. There were no problems there. Of course, there are always many factors at play with software and hardware behavior. But here's the difference, and this is probably key. When the deck fails, it feels wrong. When the Ally X needs attention, it feels expected. And that emotional gap, this is what I wanted to say, matters more than benchmarks. And then there's the software and the whole ecosystem, and SteamOS is a very focused system. One store, one flow. You build or expand your library, you return to games. Yes, some games don't work here, anti-cheat being one of the reasons, and that's part of the trade-off though. The Ally X, being a PC, shines with its ability to play almost anything. So you can play Steam, GOG, other launchers, and then there's Game Pass that lets you discover games very effortlessly, so you try games that you probably never buy. Let's say that Steam encourages commitment and Game Pass encourages sampling. Neither is better, they just shape how you play, and of course what type of games you play, because we all know the Steam Deck is better for older games, emulation, older AAAs, while the Xbox Ally X lets you play pretty much anything you want. So, who's the winner? Well, I'm sorry friends, but there isn't one. If you want a handheld that behaves like a console, predictable, calm, easy to live with, especially if you play older games or plan emulating, well, the Steam Deck OLED feels like your trusted friend. And of course, depending on the budget, it's probably a little friendlier as well. And if you want flexibility, power, and the ability to play the latest AAA games, and you're okay managing a PC, well, the ROG Xbox Ally X delivers real potential. So this isn't about which one is better, it's about the games you play and how much friction you're willing to accept in exchange for flexibility. And once you're honest about that, well, the right choice usually makes itself.